Today, I'm feeling a little cheeky, so I'm going to title this one People Just Suck Sometimes, Get Over It. Or maybe we can reframe that to something like releasing issues in relationships.
Hi, and welcome to Light for Life. If you are returning to our channel, thank you. We value and appreciate you. If you are new here, you are most welcome. I am Liss. I'm a science of mind practitioner and a teacher of various healing modalities applicable to all aspects of the self and this life.
And I am Lori. I am a holistic wellness researcher and educator. Welcome to Connections with Liss and Lori. Releasing relationship issues. I think everybody can relate to some degree or another the pressure you can feel sometimes when you're interacting with others, that you're just not feeling on the same page, and you're just not walking at the same pace, and your steps are just a little out of line with one another. Or even a little further, we are so used to people pleasing, we abandon ourselves a little bit in relationship with others, and then we walk away feeling frustrated and thinking, well, that sucks. So what does it look like if we release any attachments to our relationships and we just show up and don't have any expectations, not only of others, but really of ourselves? Our only expectation of ourselves is that we're going to show up in our truth and see where the conversation goes. Is that the ultimate in release?
Well, honey, for me, this conversation comes back to psychological archetypes. And for the most part, we all want to be either the hero in any situation or conversation or relationship, or we have a habit of being the victim. None of us want to be the villain. But the truth is, we are all the villain in someone's story. Whether it's the story of this conversation, or the story of that relationship, or the story of this situation, we are all the villain in someone's story. And so if we can truly accept that about ourselves, that in spite of who we know ourselves to be, in spite of our best efforts, we cannot control anyone else's experience of us. And so therefore, we have all played all the roles for someone. Then perhaps it becomes easier to accept when someone is playing a villain role from our perspective towards us. So like so many things in life, it comes down to some grace, some mercy, some humility in ourselves, and the ability to forgive. Because the truth is, every accusation, every insult, every put down is a statement about the self, not the other that is being projected onto. Because everything that we think and say and do has to travel through the 7 layers of ourselves before it even hits the other. So the next time a relationship is in a difficult moment, if we can remind ourselves to take that objective step back and say, what is this person actually revealing to me right now about themselves, about what they believe to be true about themselves, about what they're holding in their hearts and minds about themselves, it becomes easier not to take it personally, because the truth is it isn't. It isn't. And particularly if we're emotionally very, very sensitive, a trick that worked for me so wonderfully well when I was younger was to imagine a cardboard cutout of me, literally standing about a meter in front of me and engaging with the world before me. So everything that happened and everything that was said hit my cutout before it could come to me. And that gave me the ability to be objective before I caught feels. And it helped me to become more empowered of an empath instead of one who suffers under the inflictions of others. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. As someone who is a recovered people pleaser, it took me a long time to truly understand what it meant that even though people are projecting onto me, it has nothing to do with me and everything to do with them. Even though, this relationship is wonky and I used to really want to make the peace or fix it, and unknowingly I would soak up their emotions. I did start to recognize that there were patterns between us, and stepping out of those patterns, even just energetically, and not owning what it was that they were projecting, not owning what it was that they, however it is that they see me, that's up to them. And I don't have to own that. And just in that releasing of ownership, not only do we get to feel a little more solid in our self-love and self-appreciation and self-knowing, but it's an unplugging in a way of that pattern that was existing between you. And that unplugging, in my experience, often changes the dynamic completely, and there isn't any more projection. There isn't any more of them seeing me in this particular light, however it is that they see me. It's just really unplugging from the ownership of whatever it is that they saw me as. And most of the time, these are, like you said before, these are people that we've known for extended periods of time, family members, perhaps coworkers if we have a job for a long time. And in particular, I'm thinking of family members who, or old friends who used to know me many, 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 many years ago and think they still know me now. And they still project aspects of who I used to be. They still think that that's who I am. And that's okay. It's really okay that they haven't noticed that person is gone. I have. And I get to own that. And it's really okay. They might never be able to see that, and that's really okay. Because I am celebrating the fact that I know I have changed and I can embrace the changes that I've grown into. And I don't expect anybody else to ever notice any of that. It's okay. But for the people who know how to look between the lines, it can be very obvious and very apparent, and that communication can really take on a different tone.
Yeah, because what are relationship dynamics if we really break that down, if we really sit and think about it? A relationship dynamic, something that repeats, something that's in place, is literally the interaction of two patterns. So we cannot change by ourselves a relationship dynamic. But what we can do is change our part in our pattern that is contributing to that dynamic. So even if the other person doesn't change anything about their pattern at all, we will shift the dynamic in relation to us by having changed that pattern in ourselves. And that is such a key. So often it comes down to what we just won't tolerate anymore. Because so often the pattern has been excess tolerance, excess enabling, too much keeping quiet, And so when we shift those patterns, just that in and of itself can be very, very jarring to an established dynamic. Because the fact is, it's not what happens that makes us unhappy. It's not what was said or what was done. What makes us unhappy is when we held a certain expectation and then what happened differed to that expectation. Expectation is the heart of misery. So if I come to any dynamic or any situation or any relationship free from expectation and not repeating a historical pattern, then everything must shift. It has to. And even if all that means is that the other in this conversation or this relationship or this dynamic therefore finds me intolerable because I'm not playing my part like a good girl anymore, then they will take themselves away from what they are experiencing as a toxic dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Even though all I'm doing is changing a pattern in a more healthy way for myself.
Right.
And ergo, I become the villain in their story.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to be all right with that
Mm-hmm.
in myself.
Yeah, and it's not always easy, but we do get to rewrite our part in the dynamic. And in that process, we do have to accept the consequences that someone might not understand and see us in a not so favorable light and have beliefs about us that simply aren't true. And it's okay. It has to be okay because then we're still falling into those people-pleasing roles and we're abandoning ourselves to make a situation okay when it's really already okay. Not broken. It's just simply a different dynamic now. And perhaps those frequencies just don't align anymore.
It's a form of radical acceptance.
Hmm.
Really, really radical acceptance. And that's the only thing that's sane, quite honestly. Everything else is insane. And so it's going to lead to some form of drastic instability. Because we must accept what is. And if we can change it, then we change it. But to not be able to change, to just stay and complain, to keep reenacting the same dynamic because we can't accept it, that's madness. We're never going to experience anything other than more of the same. Something has to shift. So that radical acceptance in which we can sit and we can look and we can say, all right, how do I shift this? What do I do to change this? Because that's the only thing we can ever control is ourselves. And I think that is how we are in a healthier mental and emotional state in ourselves. In relation, perhaps, to someone who's very, very challenging to deal with.
Hmm. And sometimes these things can't be repaired. Sometimes it really is just a matter of honoring and acknowledging that that relationship has run its course. It's you have served that person as much as you can serve them. They have served you as much as you needed them to, and it's not about repairing. Sometimes it really is just about release. And ideally, we can do that with a lot of grace and a lot of gratitude and just simply rewriting how this is going to go for you. You can't write how it's going to go for anybody else. You can only write how it's going to go for you. And radically accepting any consequences that come out of that. And if there are consequences that are retaliatory, work through those too. Sometimes when we separate from the exchange that we have been participating in for an extended period of time, it can be a little jarring for the other person because they don't know what all of a sudden shifted. They don't know why all of a sudden you're acting this way. And You know, it's simply a matter of explaining that this dynamic, it doesn't seem to be getting us where we both really want to be. This dynamic isn't working in a positive way for us. This dynamic isn't healthy. This dynamic is full on toxic, and I'm not participating anymore. You know, I love you, bye.
Yeah, it's self-love in the form of self-respect. If I truly respect myself, then I'm not going to subject myself to things that violate my own compass of what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is not. To respect myself enough to have those boundaries and honor them. It's not always possible to say I love you, bye. Sometimes that seems like the panacea and the cure-all, but it's not always available. So in challenging dynamics that we have to, for whatever reason, stay connected to have those strong, self-respectful boundaries that hold the well-being of ourselves as the number one priority. And just choosing not to engage. You know, it's like as soon as it starts going downhill, hands off the wheel, all right. You know, a famous person said this, and I can't recall who now. But essentially, it's about not getting into the mud pit with the pigs.
Yeah.
First of all, because the pig likes it. And secondly, because the pig is much better at being in a mud pit than you are. So just don't get into the mud in the first place. Little piggy wants to go in the mud pit, okay, have fun. But we don't have to get down in there with them.
Yeah. Once again, I love your analogies. And
It's not my remember who said that.
and you know, it's that steadfast commitment to the self, and that, like you said, that self-respect, the self-love, to really stay strong for yourself, within yourself, and not engage, not, you know, this isn't pig wrestling. We have something in our area. We used to have something in our area that really was literally pig wrestling. And let's just not go there. Let's just not, and continue to engage in something we know is never going to have the outcome we want.
Exactly, yes. And you know, for some of us, that kind of radical acceptance comes really hard
Mhm.
because we don't want to quit, right? We don't want to feel like we failed. And
Right.
so sometimes the most freeing thing that we can do for ourselves is to give up hope. Not to give up on the other person, but to give up the hope that things could ever be different. We can always hold the possibility for them to make the choice that would make transformation possible. We can always hold space for that possibility because this is a universe in which anything is possible. But to give up and release that personal hope, things will get better, they'll change, they'll learn, they'll grow. To give that up, like entirely, just give it up, is what sets us free to respect ourselves enough, I think. Because as long as we're hoping, we're trying. And as long as we're trying, we're not accepting.
Thank you for connecting with Light for Life. Please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you would like to work with one of us, you can find our contact information in the About section.
Please share your insights, your questions, and your comments with us. We value your feedback. And we really hope that we will see you for our next episode. We upload one every Thursday.
Until we connect again, we send you love and light.